Good afternoon. This is Arman Rusta with the Polymath Project. Today is Friday, September 29th, 2017. And on today's show, we'll be talking about one of my favorite topics, and that is sports. And another topic of mine that I enjoy is politics. We'll talk about the intersection of sports and politics and how it affects us all on a personal level, the business implications, and the way that the world is changing and becoming more open with social media, with how transparent things are becoming, with how we're able to capture instantly what people are saying, what people are doing, the Twitter presidency, and the impact that that has on the world and on the country here in the US. And I'll talk a little bit about my background in the process. I grew up here in New York, born and raised, and until the age of 22, all I ever wanted to do was become a professional soccer player. That was my number one goal and direction, and I was on that track. Went to Columbia University, a Division I college, and became a student athlete. And had to make a choice, made a choice at the end of college to take my education and my skills and move them to a new domain. But I've continued to follow sports as an avid fan and always believed that sports had tremendous power to really help bring the best out of us personally, individually, but also collectively. How do you get past your differences with other people and get together as teammates on the field? How do you shake hands with an opponent that you spent the last 2 hours trying to beat, essentially, and compete with? So the concept of sportsmanship. How do you recover from a devastating injury or some kind of major issue or struggle, using the sports field as kind of an internal domain to deal with those challenges that we have? And I think there's a similarity between sports and politics in that way. And the issue that we'll talk about today, things like Trump's recent statements that got the NFL players, owners, and coaches riled up enough to basically set the stage for a league-wide protest. We could see some pictures here of players from this past weekend kneeling while the national anthem is being played. And we know that that stirred quite a bit of controversy. And this all started over a year back with Colin Kaepernick, formerly of the San Francisco 49ers, beginning this protest, this form of protest, as a way to really create a dialogue with communities, to create a dialogue with local authorities about the way, in his vision, minorities were being discriminated against, things like police brutality and other issues that minorities, and specifically African Americans, face in the US. Even with all the progress we've made, there's still work to do. I think anyone would generally accept that premise, but then how one goes about expressing dissent or trying to impact change is another question, and that's something we'll be talking about quite a bit with a guest, Connor Dalton, who's someone who has some interesting perspective on it. We'll have a conversation about it and frame it through the lens, again, of social media, seeing how players, professional athletes, that are on TV in front of millions of viewers use their social currency to make a statement and to make their opinions known, just the way President Trump did, using his currency as a successful business magnate who then moved into media with The Apprentice and then utilized that platform, the social currency and brand reputation he had, to move into a new field, into politics. Which really qualifies him as a polymath, whether you support him or not. I'm not a big fan of Trump myself personally, but looking at his career and his track objectively, one can say that this person has been very astute as a business person, as a marketer, leveraged that very effectively to launch a successful, popular show on TV, and then leveraged that very effectively to move into politics. So that's, in essence, the definition of a polymath, someone that's been able to basically succeed and show a proficiency and an expertise in a multitude of different seemingly unrelated fields. Now I say seemingly because ultimately in the end, my belief is that everything's connected. And I believe that's the way a polymath sees the world, that everything influences everything else. Everyone influences everyone else. So if we have a society where 9 out of 10 people are living great and living well, and one person's struggling and suffering, we can't ignore that. That's something that ultimately can impact or bring down the big picture and all the others. We're all connected, and that's, I think, something that we've seen and we see through some of these pictures and protests, something that I believe Colin Kaepernick was aspiring to and still aspiring to basically be a polymath in his own right. Here's a professional athlete at the peak of his career earning millions of dollars that was willing, whether you agree with his actions or not, to put all of that on the line in order to stand up for other people, basically becoming like a political, social activist. And to me, just again, the way Trump and others moved from different fields into politics, that's something that you see happening in sports, which is, to me, fascinating, and I think it's a great forum for it. It's great entertainment when you enjoy a sport, but when those people that you respect and you follow have opinions about other things, and of course we're going to listen to that, it can really impact the way a lot of people think. So are athletes and celebrities role models? That's, I think, like it or not, the answer is yes, to some degree. People are going to look to you. They're going to follow you. Whether they like you or not, they're still going to follow. The way even Trump's negators will still follow him on Twitter to see what the president has to say, so they can have something to converse about or something to react to. So I believe it's a great opportunity we have that this conversation has opened up. And today we aspire not necessarily to take sides, but to highlight the issues and try to bring some sense and rationality and objectivity to what's going on, and maybe think and talk about a little about what might come in the future. I'm excited, again, to look at what's going to happen on this weekend's games. Come Sunday, we'll talk a little bit about last night's Thursday night game in Green Bay, which I think had an interesting twist to this whole scenario. And we'll be back in a minute with our guest and dive deeper into this issue on politics and sports. See you in a minute.